What's up, YouTube? Back at it again with another video. Super exciting video for you guys today. If you stuck with me through all of the how to remove pieces, thank you very much. Thank you for checking out the videos. But now we are finally ready. So now this video is going to be how to paint chrome. So I have my grille, my rear bumper, and my front bumper, of course. So some of the things you're going to need. You're going to need, you don't need this, I guess. You can, of course, always do it by hand. Damn, bug. You can always do it by hand, but a random, a DA sander or an orbital sander is always better. A very coarse sandpaper, 60 to 80 grit is where you're going to want to be with chrome. Gloves, of course. Masking tape if you feel there's anything you need to mask off. Like I didn't remove this, so I'll mask off this metal just because I want to leave that black. I don't want that white. And then same with up here where my license plate and everything goes. I'm just going to mask that off just for my own preference. But there really won't be a lot of masking if you've taken everything apart. Wax and grease remover, of course, and some isopropyl alcohol. So first thing you're going to want to do, get your gloves on, get a mask of some sort because of the chrome doesn't really kick up that much dust as much as other things sanding, but chrome is dangerous, so you want to wear gloves and something to cover your nose and mouth. And then as well, obviously there will be you will need an air compressor of some sort, which mine is back there. Not using it yet. Right, the painting is not actually going to happen until tomorrow. This is just the prep. So tomorrow, later in this video for you guys, you'll see the paint that I'm using and all that sorts. But for as of right now, this is all you're going to need to get these paint ready. So we're going to go ahead. I'm going to go ahead and start working on this grill, and I will show you what you want the chrome to look like. First things first is you're going to want to wipe it down with the wax and grease remover. If you've ever put any chrome polish or a wax or anything like that on your chrome, that could gum up your sandpaper as you're sanding. So always before you start sanding, clean the surface. Alright guys, so a little bit of time has passed. The grill is fully sanded down and wiped down with alcohol, just one quick wipe. I'm going to prep it better when it's fully ready for paint, but I just wanted to see if I missed any spots. So this is what you're looking for. This is what the 80 grit is going to give. 80 grit is all you're going to need for painting. These scratches are not going to shine or show through. So this is what we had before, and this is what we have now. So you're just looking for a nice dull finish over the entire surface. Like I said, my emblem goes here. You're not going to see it, so that is of no concern to me. I may get in here around the edges just a little better just in case, but other than that, not a big deal. So we still have the front bumper and the rear bumper. We're going to go ahead and keep moving along here, and I will touch base with you guys probably when I'm all finished sanding both bumpers. Alright guys, we are finally all done with each bumper. I would say it took me all day just because I had to try and do this in between my daughter's naps. My wife's here now, so she's with her and I could get out here and finish this up. But I would say it probably took at least an hour on each bumper. Everything was sanded with 80 grit, and that's how I'm going to leave it. I'm not going to sand it any higher. Like mentioned previously, with the chrome, the 80 is fine. So we're going to go ahead and this is all we're going to get done for today. Tomorrow I'll mask it and everything that I want to cover up, and we will get ready to paint. So I'll see you guys in the morning. Alright guys, we are finally ready. So I have everything masked off that I don't want to get paint on. I spent literally probably 25 to 30 minutes wax and grease removing, and then I finished it off with the isopropyl alcohol. Got it completely clean. When I wipe the cloth, nothing comes off. That's what you want. Whatever you're spraying, if it's dirty, you're going to know immediately. The paint is not going to stick properly, of course, but just letting you know, make sure you take that extra step and make sure it's perfectly clean. So what you're going to need to spray out of a HVLP spray gun. Obviously you're going to need the spray gun itself. This is just a cheap Harbor Freight one. I had a coupon and it was on sale, so this was like $8. Can't beat it. And when I'm done, I could literally just throw it away. It's no big deal at all. You're going to want a inline air regulator so you can keep your PSI in check, because you only want to be spraying about 26 to 29 PSI when you're spraying the primer, the base coat, and the clear coat. Usually clear coat's a little higher, like that 28, 29 range, and then your primer base coat's like 26 to 28 usually. Then you're going to want a gun filter. These are just cheap ones that I also picked up. They're disposable from Harbor Freight. They're going to filter out any dirt, oil, water, whatever may be in the lines of your air compressor that you do not want coming out onto your finish. Obviously I mentioned the wax and grease remover. If you're spraying with a spray gun, you're obviously using higher end products, 2K products. Always want a respirator regardless. You want some measuring cups, some paint filters, paint sticks of course, and then some paper towels, lacquer thinner to clean the gun with when you're done in between coats. Some Teflon tape that I'm going to put around the threads to make sure no air is getting out. A tech cloth, of course, to always tack down beforehand. So this is what I'm using. I'm using the O'Reilly's Mason part. So you're going to want a epoxy primer if you're spraying chrome. This is a go back and forth type of subject. Some people say etching primer, some people say epoxy primer. I've been reading for over a month now, forums and everything online, and epoxy is always the one that people recommend more than an etching primer. This is a primer sealer, so it is not something that you are going to sand. The only way that you would sand an epoxy primer is, say you put primer on this one day and you couldn't come back to it till a day plus later. If it's over 24 hours, then you would just use like a red or gray Scotch-Brite pad and rough up the surface. You wouldn't actually need to fully sand it. And then moving on, we have of course the base coat, which is my GW7, which is my color code. It's the bright white for Chrysler. The reducer for the base coat, and then the 2K urethane clear coat. So first thing you're going to want to do, if you haven't done so already, go ahead and set up all your pieces. So the way I'm going to be putting it on, it's going to go air inline PSI, and then filter, and then hook it up to the hose. So I'm going to go ahead and get everything set up, and then we'll go into the next portion. Alright guys, so here is the gun all set up. Teflon tape on the fitting there, Teflon on the fitting there, and there's Teflon on the fitting there as well. And then I also have Teflon under the cup, just to make sure that no paint seeps onto the gun. With these plastic filters, just be careful when you're tightening to not over tighten, because it will crack at the top there. So just be careful there. So now, getting into it, using this epoxy specifically, always ask for these printouts, or I mean you can always Google it, but looking at the component ratio here, it's a 1:1. So if you look at your cup here, it's got 1:1, 2:1, 3:1, 4:1, yada yada yada. It goes on and on. So we're going to be in this first column here, and then now if you only needed that little tiny bit, so you would fill right here with the primer, and then to that one with the activator. But then you can judge it as far as you want to. So if you look here on the cup, it's very hard to see, but it goes up to 15 ounces on the cup. I could go a little over the 12 ounce, so I would probably go 3 to 3. So you would fill up to here, or I'm going to fill up to here with primer, and up to this 3 with the activator. This side nozzle here, this determines your fan pattern, how wide it is. So if you're turning it counterclockwise, it opens up the fan, and then back here with this nozzle, it's really hard to do with one hand. So if you turn it left, it sprays out more product. If you turn it right, it sprays out less. And then this one here, once you get it where you like it, you can turn it clockwise and tighten it up against the gun, so then you can't turn this and you won't lose where you like your setting to be. We're gonna go ahead, fill the primer up, and get started. Alright guys, so that's coat number 1. I'm going to give it about 15-ish minutes to set up. As you can see, adjusted the gun a little bit. I like where it's spraying paint-wise. I forgot to tighten it down during, and I like the fan pattern. I'm going to leave it set up here. I sprayed at about 26, 27 PSI on here. So the way you test is you would just pull in slightly and then adjust the knob from there. When you squeeze full, then it sprays. So, but yeah, we're gonna give this about 15 minutes. And we'll get set up for the second coat. All right, guys. So I just finished up. I mixed a little bit more paint and hit the spots I missed, and then I used what I had in here just to touch up a couple spots. But it's got 2 heavy coats on it, so we're gonna let that set up. It has to set up for an hour before you can spray your base coat. So we're going to give that time to dry, and while we're doing that, we're going to take apart and clean our gun. Very, very, very important, especially when you're spraying the products like these 2Ks with the activators and the hardeners. It will severely damage the internal parts of your gun. So while it's taking its hour to dry, we are going to take this apart, clean it up real nice using lacquer thinner, and it will be ready for the base coat. So I will see you guys when it's time for that. Alright guys, so we're coming up on the hour of it being done, so I just want to touch base with you, show you what it's looking like. Everything good, we have good coverage. I did 2 full coats, and then like I said, I went around underneath there was a little difficult to get to, so I touched that up. 2 full coats, and I'd say just a 3rd touch-up coat. So what I've done in that time is I went ahead and I threw a new filter on. I don't know if we need to do that or not, but I am going to replace a filter between primer, base coat, clear coat. That's why I bought 3. Redid the Teflon tape, and then took these. If you have a RAM, these sensors are painted already. So all you need to do is just take some 600 grit, some 600 grit sandpaper, and I just roughed them up. Gave them a nice dull finish, and then I taped over the plug-ins because I don't want to get any paint inside any electrical components. Other than that, if the rest gets paint on it, it's of no concern to me. So it got about 10-15 minutes left. I ran out of gloves, so I'm going to shoot over to the store real quick while these finish curing, and then when I come back, we'll be ready to mix and get on the base coat. So what you want to do after cleaning the primer or before the first use of the gun or anything like that, go ahead and just put a little bit of lacquer thinner in here and spray it through the gun just in case if there's anything gummed up in there, it will get it out. So I'm going to set the camera up, get the base coat poured. So the base coat, if we look here, it says it's 8:4, which is 2:1. So it's 2 parts color, 1 part reducer. So this time we're going to be in the 2:1 row. With the sensors, only going to do probably 1 coat just so it doesn't affect the distance of how they read. If you go 1 coat, it won't affect them actually working as sensors. So let's throw the paint in the gun. Let's get this first coat on. So first coat of base coat is like anything else when it comes to base coat. Real light coat. It's just a tack coat. Just because it's a different style of paint does not mean it changes the process. Alright guys, so that was the first coat of base. As you can see, still a lot of primer poking through, but that's exactly what you want. It's just a tack coat. It's just a tack coat. So we're going to wait about 15 minutes or so. Probably 15 minutes, about 20 after 1. And then we'll spray the second coat. So as you saw, if you saw me standing over there for a little while, the air compressor kicked on. If any of that happens, try and finish the panel that you're on, which is what I did, but then wait, because if it's building air, if it has to fill the tank, you're not going to get the proper air pressure. Like I checked it, and I was only spraying like 20 when the air compressor kicked on, so I stopped, waited for it to fill up completely, and then went on to the rear bumper. Alright guys, I didn't record the third just because obviously it's all the same process, but I'll just give you guys, look here, third coat is on, everything's looking great. So as I wait for this first coat to dry, I just want to touch on a couple things. With the base coat and the primer, you know, you usually go 2 to 3 coats. With the clear coat, especially if you're planning on wet sanding, which if you're in a garage, you are more than likely going to need to. Like I'll go around and show you here. Like there. I mean, there's stuff just landing in the clear coat, which is unpreventable. I've been using a tack cloth, but you're not gonna get a perfect finish. I mean, there's just a couple things. So I would definitely, I'm gonna 100% use all of the clear coat, whether it's 3 coats or it's 5 coats. Because once that clear coat is gone, once I'm done with this, that clear coat I have no use for it. I don't know the next time I'm going to be painting anything. So I'm going to go ahead and put all the clear coat on, so that way I have a nice thick base to start with when I start wet sanding, and I can get out as much orange peel as possible. So I just want to let you guys know. And of course, if you haven't seen my previous videos, a good way to test if your coat is ready without putting fingerprints on the actual product is to touch the paper or the tape around it. So like this is not tacky at all, so that is ready. Go ahead, give this a wipe down with a tack cloth. I won't show you guys the rest of the coats, it's obviously all the same, but I will talk a little bit when I'm all finished up. So here it is, guys. Oh my god, it looks so good. I'm so glad that I color matched the mirrors too. This looks freaking amazing. Now I put everything back on just because I have to go to work tomorrow, so wet sanding now unfortunately is going to be a little bit more tedious as far as, you know, avoiding the parking sensors and like my emblem and such. It would have been a lot easier. Obviously when the grill inserts and everything and nothing was attached, and you could just go crazy wet sanding it, which will need to be done as mentioned previously. Of course there's orange peel, but then there's a little bit of dust and spots, you know, of course, which is completely expected if you're doing it in a garage like I had done, and like probably most of you are doing if you are checking out this video on how to do it yourself. But overall, so happy with the outcome. Good on you, O'Reilly's, on mixing that paint, because That is dang near a perfect match. So bring you around to the back. I know you just saw the little cinematic there, but show you myself. Parking, I tested the front and the rear parking sensors. They do all work in both directions. So even with the paint on them, have no fear. They do still work. Back bumper turned out really good for whatever reason. Things were more attracted, dust and things were more attracted to the front bumper. But still it needs to be wet sanded, of course. Just a word of advice, I did not do this and I'm paying the price for it. I totally meant to do it before, but I did not. I would either lay down a tarp, like, you know, I had hung up, lay that down, or just kind of take your hose and mist the floor before you spray. It's going to keep, one, it's going to keep dust down, and two, it's also, if you keep the floor wet, it's going to keep the overspray down. It's not going to be able to stick to the floor, and then when you're done you can just wipe it off or push it out with a broom. So as you can see, my floor is pretty much trashed now. And then also I already took them out, but when you're working on the putting everything back, like the fog lights and the wiring harness and everything, make sure you lay a blanket down wherever. Lay a blanket down, like I had them still set up on what I was using, and I just laid a blanket over it just in case the paint is not fully cured. So just be careful that you don't put any scratches in it or take any chips out of it right out of the get-go before you even get it back on. So I laid blankets down on everything before I actually flipped it over to paint side and did everything. But that is the video, guys, on how to paint chrome. There was absolutely no sanding marks that showed through at all on the 80 grit. So just 80 grit is perfectly fine when you are sanding chrome. If you like this video, please give it a thumbs up, subscribe. We have even more coming for this truck, so much more. And until next time, peace.